All right, Mr. Plum, thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time. I can only imagine how tough and hectic of a time it is right now. But you live here in Houston, in the Houston area, and you have three children who actually live in Israel. We know, of course, the attack from Iran earlier today, which took place. First off, tell me what it's like. Tell me quickly about your three kids. I know you have one grandchild as well, whom you just met. You were just over in Israel, and knowing what they're going through right now, what's been going through your mind?
Well, I wasn't as worried about my oldest. He's been living there for 3 or 4 years now, and this is a become part of their routine. My youngest, my daughter, just went over there in September to spend a year studying. So for her, this was her first trip to a bomb shelter, and I was worried how she would handle that. How much anxiety would she have? How much fear would she have? And so I was able to talk to both of them afterwards. And my older one said, "Oh, it's no big deal, Dad." But it was our son's first trip to a bomb shelter, so he'll grow up knowing that. And my daughter handled it pretty well. She was more concerned about her friends than she was about herself, and so she came out of it okay. Not too much anxiety.
And is that something? I guess it is something that if you live in Israel, that's just something that you have to learn to get used to. Unfortunately.
It is. We were just there for our son's the birth of our grandson, our son's child, and everywhere you go, you have to wonder in the back of your mind, where's the nearest bomb shelter? What happens if there's a missile attack? Where do I go? What do I do? Um, yeah. In fact, if you have a moment, I'll tell you a story. While we were there, um, in we're Jewish, and needless to say, if it's not obvious, and in Judaism, on the eighth day of a boy's life, we do a ritual circumcision,
Mm-hmm.
and we were hoping that our son, who's in active duty in the IDF, would be able to attend, but he was initially told no, he wouldn't be able to go. And
Mm.
then the day before the circumcision, he called us at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and said, I can go, but they're only going to let me off at 6 p.m. I can meet you at 6:30 p.m. tonight,
Mm.
but you have to come pick me up."
Okay.
So we had to go to the north, and he said, "Meet me in Majdal Shams." And we're like, "Really?" He says, "Yes, meet me there." Now, Majdal Shams may not mean much to you, but that's the town where the 12 Druze children were killed in a
Mm.
Hezbollah missile attack,
Near
who
the
were playing
northern border.
soccer on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So he said, "Meet me in that town and I'll find you and you can bring me back and I'll be able to go to the circumcision the next morning," because it was going to be at 8 a.m. So my wife and I hopped in the car. We drove 4 hours to go get him.
Mm.
And halfway there, we got to a point in Israel where they are scrambling GPS. So one moment we're in Israel, the next moment the GPS thinks we're at the Jordanian airport.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You want the GPS to know where you are.
Exactly. So we quickly downloaded a map, an offline map, and using Google Maps on our phone instead of the CarPlay, we could see the steps we needed to go. And using the offline map, we could figure out where to make our turns. And we got there okay.
Mm.
But it was a little scary going
Oh.
up to the north and knowing that we're not supposed to be there. We're not supposed to go that way. Israelis are discouraged from going in the north. But we wanted to do something for our son. We so rarely can do anything to support him in the IDF that we didn't think twice. We went,
Mm.
we left, we got him, went
Yeah.
and picked him up.
Wow. And that son is Jacob, if I'm correct. The
Yes,
son who's in the
correct,
IDF.
correct.
You actually got a call from him earlier this morning. What can you share with us about that call? What did he say to you, and what was it like to hear his voice?
So I saw on my caller ID an Israeli phone number. It was not my son's phone number. So the first thing that I thought was, what's happened to
Mm.
my son? That somebody else is calling me. I knew that they had taken away their phones. He told me that last week. because they were that. I don't know where he is. I know at the time I knew he was on the on the border with Lebanon, but he can't tell me exactly where he is.
Mm.
Um, when he told me that they took his phone, I knew that meant that they're preparing to enter Lebanon and to go on some kind of military action. But I was not prepared. I didn't know when that would happen, and I didn't know if at that moment I got that call, I didn't know if something had already happened to him. So I answered the call, and it's my son speaking to me, which was immediately a sense of relief, but brought in another sense of dread that if you're calling me, you're telling me you're going into battle, which he did. He said, I wanted to let you know that in 5 minutes we're moving out and we're going into Lebanon. And I'm like, what do I say? This could be the last words I speak to my son. I don't know if he's going to come back alive. I don't know if he's going to come back wounded. So I wished him, peace. I wished him strength. I told him Happy New Year because tomorrow night starts the Jewish New Year.
Right.
He had hoped to be able to, spend it with his brother, but that's not going to happen. He's going to be spending it defending the Jewish people in the state of Israel, which is, in my opinion, a very brave and high calling to answer and to do. I'm very proud of him, but I told him I love you, and your mom and I are hoping and praying for you.
Now, you have 3 children and a brand new baby grandchild in Israel as well.
Correct.
How difficult is it to be this far away from them, knowing what they're enduring right now?
So I try to think about it as gosh, it really is rotten that I'm 7,000 miles away from my grandchild. I don't think about the rockets. I try not to look at the news. I try not to follow all the alerts that I get. I try not to do any of those things. I try to think about they're leading a normal life. And I have to push that out of my mind or I'll go crazy. I'll just worry all the time and be paralyzed. That's what happened at the beginning of all this, almost a year ago. Because my son has been in the IDF since before October 7. So we initially fell into this sinkhole of watching every scrap of news, looking for any tidbit, trying to understand what's going on, and we were paralyzed. We couldn't function. We couldn't take care of the child who was still living here. And that wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair to us. My wife and I both work. We needed to get our focus back on work and taking care of things. And so we learned how to push those things out. And that's what every Israeli family does when they have a child in the IDF. They don't think about it. You have to push it out of your mind. You have to be strong because you have to be strong for your child. If they sense that you're scared, if they hear that in your voice, that makes them fearful. It's like if your child is going off to do something different that's out of the ordinary, and you want to project strength. You don't want them to sense that you have fear, because that means that they're going to have fear.
Here in the city of Houston, they have taken precautions to make sure that the Jewish community and landmarks are protected. Living here, being a resident, how does it make you feel? Do you feel safer? And before learning about the news about Houston doing what it can to keep the Jewish community safe, did you feel at risk in any way?
Well, the city of Houston has been phenomenal to the Jewish people for a long time. In my synagogue, we have Houston police officers on duty during service times, and it's a great relief to know they're there. However, I don't feel very safe. I always keep my door locked. When I come in my home, I lock my door. I'm always worried about if somebody followed me. There are just too many crazies in the world now who blame the Jews for everything and who believe that the Palestinians are just in trying to destroy the Jews, who don't see this as a battle of good and evil. This is Western society's values versus Iran and radical Islam, and they've got North Korea and Russia as their partners, And this is a battle for Western values versus Eastern values. And I'm worried about the people who don't understand what's really at stake, and they think this is about colonialism in Israel, and that's not what's going on. These are people who are rabid Jew haters who are out to destroy every Jew they can find on the planet, and they're going to stop at nothing until they're eradicated.
My last question for you: when you look at that conflict and all the sides that are involved, when you hear from the Palestinian side and those who are concerned about the life that has been lost, in Gaza, the Palestinian population, when you have those conversations, have you been able to have those conversations with people who have a different viewpoint, and what is your message to them in those conversations?
Yeah, actually, I look for those conversations because I think it's important to have a rational, calm discussion about the points of view. And my point of view is that I don't want to see anybody dead. I don't want to see death and destruction anywhere. Israel did not begin this war. Hamas and Hezbollah started this war. Hamas started on October 7th, and Hezbollah started on October 8th. They attacked Israel. Israel must defend itself. Israel must do what it can to protect its citizens. It's very unfortunate that Hamas and Hezbollah have both embraced the concept of using humans as shields for their military. They put their weapons, they hide their arms, they hide their weapons of destruction in people's homes. We've seen pictures of children's beds used as storage facilities for RPGs, for weapons, for missiles. That is wrong. I can't imagine any civilized country doing that. And that's what we're trying to fight. And when you read Hamas's death tallies, they include their own military in those counts. So it's not 20,000 civilians killed, it's 15,000 enemy combatants and 5,000 civilians, but they don't break them out. They want Israel to look as bad as possible to increase the pressure on Israel from the world to stop fighting for itself and to accept the deaths of innocent Jews. And that's not right. And so I want to stand up and I want to explain to people what's really happening on the ground and how this is a battle of for the West. It's not just about Israel.
Okay. All right, Mr. Plum, thank you so much for your time. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family, and of course with your children and grandchild there in Israel. And we're all praying for a peaceful end to conflict as quickly as possible.
Thank you. I join you in those thoughts. Thank you.